With display technology in 2023, brightness is always a headline feature. How many nits can it do? The more nits, the merrier. Quite the opposite to when I was at school. But with projection technology, I think brightness has always been a thing. But how much does it matter in the real world? Well, interestingly, a couple of weeks ago, I had a demo of a 15,000 lumen RGB triple laser projector that was the size of a cannon, that had loads of fans on it to keep it cool, in which case it was very noisy. But the image that it produced was so bright, colourful and punchy, and the way the image kind of popped off of the screen, you can imagine how impressive that was. So impressive that straight after I saw another high-end projector and another high-end large television, and both of those looked quite dull and flat by comparison. And that projector, by the way, costs £68,000. And the reason I'm starting this review talking about this is because with the laser TV system that I have here for review, which includes the AWOL Vision LTV 3500 Pro ultra short throw projector and the AWOL Vision 120-inch Cinematic Plus floor rising ambient light rejection screen, there is quite a bit in common here with that £68,000 projector that impressed me so much a couple of weeks ago. For starters, it's also an RGB triple laser design with some crazy specs such as 3500 ANSI lumens peak brightness, but more importantly with 3300 sustained brightness. So that's 2640 ISO lumens sustained, which is a lot, and it can hit over 100% of Rec 2020 color, and I don't think any normal TV display can do that yet. And it does all that with no color wheel. So no negative effects of that color wheel filter in the light path, which can cause rainbow effects. And the laser light engine is claimed to last 25,000 hours, which is, I think, 8 hours a day for about 8.5 years. For gamers, it can have as low as an 8 millisecond lag in 1080p in turbo mode and 15 milliseconds for 4K. And there is a very good claimed contrast ratio of 2,500 to 1. And this is not a native 4K projector. It uses Texas Instruments DLP 0.47-inch DMD technology to create the 8.3 million pixels that are needed for a 4K resolution. And you know what? I don't think anybody could tell the difference between native and non-native 4K projectors because so many other factors matter more for the image quality. And one of them that really jumps out to me is that with the 3500 Pro, AWOL Vision have used an all-glass lens. And coming from a camera's background now, I know how important a lens is to the image quality that you're going to see. And a camera is kind of like a projector, or a projector is kind of like a camera in reverse when you think about it. And I know all too well how expensive really good glass is. What also matters to me is the fact that Dolby Vision is supported. I think I would want that box ticked personally if this was going to be my main display. And the 3500 Pro also supports HDR10+, HDR10 and HLG. And this is a pretty sizable UST projector, and you notice this straight away when you unbox it. But I have grown quite fond of its unusual styling. But you can't miss the extreme venting, but don't let that fool you. This projector is pretty quiet, even in its bright mode. And that really impressed me considering how bright and punchy the image can be. There are 36-watt stereo speakers hidden somewhere in the front, I assume, and on the rear are 2 HDMI ports, one with ERC, one optical digital audio output, and a USB. But hidden behind a secret compartment of sorts is another HDMI and USB port that's intended for you to install the included Amazon Fire TV Max. So essentially the media streaming is not built in, although it kind of is. And you know what, I really like this approach actually of using an external unit, because that means that we can upgrade that over time if they maybe bring out a new version that maybe supports Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7 or whatever technology might come in the future. Our product will stay up to date. And it also means that the internal processing is then just for the internal processing, not trying to run a media platform too. And I don't know if that's why everything was just so fast and slick. The projector menu system is a real pleasure to use as a result. The menu feels intuitive to navigate, and I'm becoming used to the UST projector menu vibe. There are some main options such as the laser engine brightness level, which I selected bright, as well as some other key options you might want to enable or disable, such as eye protection. And I would say its safety protocols are on the extra safe side, which could fill somebody with confidence if it maybe got young children in the home, because it will give you the confidence that that child's not going to try and, foolishly, try and look into the light source. Then in the picture menu, we have a good set of image calibration controls for white balance and color CMS. And this is not something offered in the more affordable HDMI Aura I have just reviewed. So if you're a picture quality purist, then the AWOL Vision is more suited to you. And given its performance potential, I think it would be more than worth the cost of a professional calibrator to come in to get you the best image from it. And what I liked about the whole menu system is that it feels comprehensive enough, but not overwhelming. But there are some strange phrases used for more common controls, such as tone, which shifts the image from magenta to green, and chroma, which is the same as color saturation. And I have no idea why AWOL Vision have used these phrases instead of what's more obvious, but I do think I prefer the more obvious approach. Now, before we talk about picture quality, it's important to talk to you about the screen I'm using, because I know all too well the screen you use is crucial to the image that you see. And the screen that I am using, which I should probably raise it up while I'm talking about it, is the AWOL Vision 120-inch Cinematic Plus, which, as you can see, is a rising from the floor ambient light rejecting screen. And I have been really impressed with the build quality and the overall function of this screen. It's quite a large thing, quite a heavy thing, as you can imagine, at over 30 kilograms, but I found it very easy to set up and install. I literally unboxed it, placed it where I wanted it to go, installed some sliding feet, which I think are there to stop the screen moving around, maybe on like a hard type of floor. You don't have to worry about that so much with carpet. I plugged it in, and then with the included remote control, literally pressed up or maybe down or maybe stop, and it's really, really responsive. So this is all very, very impressive. I also like the fact that the screen, depending on where you leave it last, it will remember that point and automatically stop there on the next time you use it. I really like that. I think that's very impressive. And also impressive is that you can connect a USB cable from your projector to it, and that then behaves as a trigger. So if you turn your projector on, the screen will automatically rise, turn your projector off, and the screen will automatically go down again. Simple stuff that's a nice touch that makes a difference in the real world. The screen is rated up to an 8K resolution and uses a specific material which only reflects light back to you with a 170-degree viewing angle, and then it rejects ambient light that makes its way back to the screen, maybe from the ceiling or the walls or through windows. And this is to give you as much contrast in the image as possible. I'm sure most people have seen maybe a pub projector on a white screen where the image is all washed out. The ambient light rejection is to, again, retain as much contrast to the image as possible when there is ambient light in the room, in a non-light controlled environment. And light controlled doesn't necessarily mean you can turn the lights off and shut the curtains. A proper light controlled environment would be black material on the walls, ceiling and the floor that's light absorbent. So literally the only thing that you see is the screen. Now, of course, that's a very extreme thing to do that maybe someone would do in a dedicated home cinema. But the whole point of a laser TV is that it can replace your TV in a normal environment. So again, the screen that you choose to use is vitally important to the viewing experience that you're going to get. So investing in a very good quality ambient light rejection screen is definitely worth the investment. But one major drawback of this ambient light rejection screen is that it's not acoustically transparent, which means sound from maybe speakers can't necessarily play through the screen to you at the listening position. Of course you can, but it's going to affect their sound some. So AWOL Vision have tried to overcome this situation by having the bottom part of the screen to be acoustically transparent. You can see it's kind of like a mesh system at the bottom. So you could place speakers behind that part of the screen, but it is quite low. So do pay attention to that for your planning of what you're going to do for audio. But I have been nothing but impressed with the quality of this screen, the way it all works, the mechanics of it. Even the noise that it doesn't really make. I mean, again, I'll lower it down now. You can see there's a little bit of noise, but for me, that's really, really minor considering the weight and stuff that's being lifted here. And the screen material is really very soft, but yet it comes, you roll it up, unroll it, it's never once creased. So all of these things are really impressive to me. And the image quality that this screen is able to produce is absolutely stunning. There's a 0.8 gain, so this is something to pay attention to. As is the price, which is $2,999. So this is quite a chunk of money to invest into a screen, but really the screen is pivotal to what you see. And a lot of that money is, of course, going into that really clever mechanism. Time to talk about picture quality. And doing this job over the last couple of years, I've been in the luxury position to see some amazing things, some amazing projectors and some huge, gigantic, amazing screens. So it's very difficult to wow me at this stage. But always having things in your own home always feels just that little bit different. And I installed the AWOL Vision 3500 Pro. I put on Pacific Rim on 4K UHD disc, I think just because it was out on the side, and I was literally amazed by what I was seeing. The image clarity was a cut above what I'm used to, and the 120-inch window you look through was just that bit clearer and more impressive because the image was more TV-like in quality, but more life-size in scale. And then the image punch from the colours and brightness helped the image to really get off the screen in a more 3D and realistic fashion. And it was really quite eye-opening to get some specular highlights with real brightness and punch to them. And there was a few scenes in Pacific Rim where the light's really bright on the screen and it was kind of making me wince a little bit. So that was really quite cool. And it kind of just reminded me and took me back to that demo that I'd had a couple of weeks ago with that £68,000 projector. I was getting that kind of level of experience from this system here. So over the next couple of days, I tried to test as much different content as possible, streamed from Disney+, Amazon, Netflix, using my Apple TV box, and I watched a number of 4K discs, played from my Oppo 203. And my overall impressions are really very cliche, so I'll apologise in advance, but it was like me seeing all of my favourite movies for the first time, watching them on a setup like this. And this is definitely not my first high-end projector rodeo. Some of you watching this will remember back to a couple of years ago, this room used to be a pitch black Batcave with black absorbent material everywhere. I had a 100-inch screen in here, I have had a very high-end Sony projector in here and a high-end BenQ projector in here. And neither of those two got me anywhere near close to the picture quality performance that I've been experiencing from this AWOL Vision setup, not even close. Yes, the brightness of the AWOL setup stands out, but so does the purity of the image. It's so clean. The colour fidelity seems so natural and solid and detailed, to the point where you start to see textures within the characters' costumes. And that seems a really nerdy thing to even mention. And I'm talking about a scene that I was watching from The Hobbit, actually. And while it's nerdy, and it's a small minor thing, it all adds up to the bigger picture. And by bigger picture, it's that 120-inch window that we see through. It kind of adds to the natural authenticity and realism of that experience. Black levels are good, but they are not perfect. I think they maybe could be a little better given the price, being honest. But there was very impressive shadow details visible, so no obvious black crush. And I watched some John Wick 4, which is where black crush can be really obvious because it's part of the movie's look, or at least I thought it was until I watched it on this projector. And then bright and colourful content such as Elements or Encanto or Monsters Inc. streamed from Disney Plus from my Apple TV box literally looked amazing. There's no other word for it. It's a whole new experience watching these movies when they can have this much colour and image, vibrancy and pop at this scale and size, but still with a movie-like character that I think you lose when you watch these movies on a TV. But the big shock came for me from Avatar: Way of the Water, and I have seen this movie on a few different displays and often felt a little underwhelmed. But on this projector setup, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my home, in some regards. It's maybe not the most filmic of movies, but there's no denying how dynamic everything looks and how very three-dimensional it is from a 2D image. And it doesn't end there. I could have watched and told you about 100 different clips from 100 different movies. They're all extremely impressive in their own right. And I've been watching Lord of the Rings in 4K and watching that on this projector, seeing the extra level of clarity into the production, seeing how they've missed focus really quite a lot. I've never seen that before. So it's like, again, seeing your favourite movies for the first time because you're seeing them with just this extra bit of clarity into what makes them, I suppose, special in the first place. Then for sound, the 3500 Pro is really interesting because it plays very loud, but it felt like about halfway was close to its volume limit. And interestingly, I thought all of the sound modes were a little underwhelming and disappointing until I engaged Dolby Atmos. And then the sound was very wide for its soundstage and actually quite elevated for its pseudo surround effect from stereo speakers. So I asked AWOL Vision about this and they told me that the speakers and the audio system is actually Dolby Atmos certified, Dolby Atmos from stereo speakers, and they use reflective technology to create this pseudo surround effect with kind of elevated height. And it does work, and it does work even in this acoustically treated listening room. Now, interestingly, comparing the sound to the HDMI Aura projector, I think the HDMI sounded a bit more punchy and a bit more direct, which makes sense to me now. I know that the speakers in the 3500 Pro are working on a reflective basis, but I would say that the 3500 Pro sounded larger, it sounded louder, it sounded more expansive and more open. It just didn't have quite the same fullness and punch as the Aura. And that leads me nicely onto talking about a comparison between the HDMI Aura and the AWOL 3500 Pro. And there is a huge price difference here of about 3 times as much for the 3500 Pro. So that is a lot more money. And how do I feel about this? Well, the HDMI Aura does everything right. It gives you a great experience for the money and it's simple to use. The 3500 Pro has a much higher performance potential, the potential to make you go wow with its brightness and image pop, and I think you can get much more out of it because of the more advanced calibration controls. And it has Dolby Vision, which of course is a big advantage. The colours from the 3500 Pro seem a little more pastel and soft, but also richer and more vibrant. It's like a double whammy of more pleasingness. And the colours from the Aura are maybe a little more limited, but that doesn't make them bad. In fact, it's more how I'm used to seeing colours produced by a projector. Well, I was until the 3500 Pro. And the colour fidelity and the way the colours are produced, I think, and the lens and everything really for the 3500 Pro, it's just more like you're seeing something real happening on the screen rather than a display showing you something. And it's really quite a difficult difference to talk about there, but it's like the difference between something looking real and something looking like it's an impression of real. That's the best way as I can describe it. So what about negatives? Well, the bigger the screen, the more punishing to the source quality it always is. But it feels more so here than usual. And I think that's because the delta for when the content is very good now goes up that much more. It raises your expectation for everything. And then you realise that not all content is created equal. In saying that, my own content and other content from YouTube look pretty good to me. So I think it just comes down to the creator's intent most of the time. And the creator would be a perfect example because I bought this movie from the Apple Store and watched it on this projector with the sound being sent Bluetooth to my headphones. Pretty cool to be able to do that. And this movie's effects are amazing, but the image is gritty and grungy and very noisy by design. And it's the same with the latest James Bond and loads of other movies. So it doesn't matter how good your display is, if the content's made like this, the better the display, the more it just shows you how the content is made. And one other negative of any projector system really is that the picture quality is definitely better when it's dark. However, I think this setup held up the best I have seen so far with a lot of ambient light, and that could be huge for you depending on how you watch things at home. So to sum up this very long review, I need to bring my excitement back down to earth for a second because just shy of $6,000, it's still a lot of money. But then I have to remind myself that my first projector cost more than this for about half the picture quality and twice the inconvenience. And we're only talking about 5 years ago here, not like ancient history. We're talking about really quite recent history. So it's super impressive and amazing to me that the technology, projector technology, has come this far that quickly. And what that really boils down to is what we are getting here for our money. Yes, this is a very expensive setup if we talk about the retail price for the projector plus the screen, but we are getting what this system is offering is exceptional performance, really high level, exceptional performance. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. If you enjoy my take on high-end expensive projection systems, please subscribe to the channel and thumbs up the video, of course, if you enjoyed it.